In this corner, things are getting hairy with that dirty dog, the Wolfman. In the other corner, frankly, this monster is ready to mash. It's Frankenstein's monster. In recent years, it's become the fad in Hollywood to create a shared universe, where characters from different franchises all exist in the same world, like with the Marvel superheroes in the Avenger movies. Universal Studios has even had the ingenious idea of doing it with their classic monster characters. Too bad they already thought of it in 1942. So let's take a look at that very first shared universe movie, and the first official Battle of the Monsters. That's right, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. According to the writer, Kurt Siodmak, the idea for the movie came about when he was having lunch with the producer George Wagner, and he made a joke and said, "George, why don't we make a picture? Frankenstein wolfs the meat man. Frankenstein meets the Wolfman." George didn't laugh. Meanwhile, Kurt needed a new car, but he needed a writing job to pay for it, and George said, "Go ahead and get the car and I'll get you a writing job." So Kurt got the car, and his new assignment was Frankenstein meets the Wolfman. And Kurt Siodmak's lesson to all writers: never make a joke in the studio. The original plan was that Lon Chaney Jr. was going to play both the Wolfman and Frankenstein's monster, with the help of some trick photography and stunt doubles. The idea made perfect sense. He originated the role of the Wolfman, and had played the monster in the last Frankenstein film. And on a personal level, playing multiple roles was the same thing his father used to do. However, due to a combination of the technical challenges, the mutual dislike between Lon and makeup man Jack Pierce, and Lon's heavy drinking on the set, he decided to cast Dracula actor Man.Lugosi instead. In the last film, Ghost of Frankenstein, Bela had played Igor. And at the end, Igor's brain gets transplanted into the monster's body, so narratively, this made sense too. The production was often more horrifying than the movie itself. During the first week of shooting, Lionel Atwill was found guilty of perjury and put on probation. While shooting the scene of Lon Chaney Jr. and Maria Upskinskaya riding the carriage overturned and fell on both of them. Also, the 60-year-old Bela Lugosi, who was under the strain of wearing the 35-pound monster suit, collapsed on the set and was diagnosed with exhaustion. Unfortunately, that was just the beginning of his problems. After dying in the last movie, Lawrence Talbot comes back from the grave. Forced to turn into a wolf and kill people during the full moon, Lawrence wants to commit suicide, but with his curse, he doesn't know how. He goes to the old gypsy woman, Maliva, from the last film, for help. She knows of a doctor who can work miracles. Dr. Frankenstein! So they go to Visaria to find him. The good doctor is dead, but Lawrence finds the monster and locates Dr. Frankenstein's daughter. Lawrence plans to use the secrets of Dr. Frankenstein to cause his own death, but Dr. Mannering becomes more interested in restoring the monster. While it had been done in comic books and cartoons, this is the first shared universe in a feature film, and it absolutely sets the standard for how to do it. First of all, it makes sense! Because Lawrence is a werewolf, it's understandable that he'd want to die. And because Maliva is a gypsy, she's traveled all over. So it makes sense that she's heard of Dr. Frankenstein. And if a doctor can create a monster, I would assume that he could kill a werewolf. So they have a logical reason for going on a journey to find Dr. Frankenstein. And those traveling scenes also provide a very natural transition from Wolfman Land to Frankensteinville. Also, the Wolfman is the perfect monster to do this with, because in his human form, he's able to function as the film's protagonist, and you don't have the redundancy of two monsters always running around. But when he needs to be one, he is one. And in the spirit of true showmanship, they save the moment you're waiting for till the end, when the two monsters, with Lawrence in his wolf form, meet and have an elaborate monster battle. Other monster team-ups followed in the same tradition, but Kurt Siodmak just instinctively knew that's what audiences wanted. And just like what Freddy vs. Jason did years later, he cleverly avoided having one monster be the clear winner over the other, letting both of them keep their dignity. The movie also gives both monsters a chance to shine. The first half focuses completely on the Wolfman, and because he never had a standalone sequel, they have plenty of new ground to cover, with both his werewolf attacks and his character development.
Now I must go on living. There's no hope for me to die now.
During the second half, they bring the monster in! And frankly, this is where the film suffers. It has the same problems as Ghost of Frankenstein, which is what I like to call Frankenstein by numbers. We've seen it before. They bring a new Frankenstein relative in. The villagers are angry, and the doctor decides to restore the monster. Because it occupies only a section of the film, it's not as big of a problem as it was in Ghost of Frankenstein, but it's still not as creative as the earlier scenes. Despite a few problems, though, we still get two of our favorite monsters, played by two horror icons. Lon Chaney Jr. loved playing the Wolfman, and would call the role his baby. It's better than Betsy Wetsy. And in this one, he gets to go deeper with the character. In the first film, he was more scared. But now, he's more of a tortured soul who's tragically accepted his fate. And his only hope to stop murdering people is to die. Lon's performance gives the film a level of depth and heart that a campy monster romp generally wouldn't have. And speaking of campy monster romp, they also make him scarier. They've refined the lap-dissolve process that they use for the transformation scenes, so it looks more natural. And they give him an incredibly atmospheric entrance, where a couple of grave robbers enter his mausoleum, and Lawrence comes alive. Lawrence Talbot. I'm gonna get his gold watch. Wolfbane. Even a man who is pure of heart and says his prayers by night may become a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the moon is full and bright. It's got a hold of me! Help! Help! Don't leave me! Help! Help! Along with the Wolfman, there's also Bela Lugosi as Frankenstein's monster. In 1931, Bela was flying high on his Dracula success, and he turned down the part of the monster. Although some say he was actually dropped from the project. Regardless, it's now 1942. His career is going downhill and he needs the money. He wasn't thrilled with the role, and in his words, he felt like a big jerk every time he had to do the monster yell. But as always, he brought his A-game. Unfortunately, there were problems right off the bat. First of all, Bela was 60. Now I know, 60 is the new 50, but in those days, 60 was the old 70. He had terrible leg pains, which is why his doctor prescribed him morphine, so they had to rely very heavily on stunt doubles. So a good portion of the performance is not under his control. Now originally, they were following up from the last film, where Igor's brain had been put in the monster's body. Bela had dialogue, he was supposed to be blind, and he was giving another Igor performance, which was one of his best roles.
Die never! Dr. Frankenstein created this body to be immortal, and his son gave me a new brain. A clever brain. I will rule the world!
Show me the diary.
Come with me!
Then they had a test screening with the production staff, and they laughed at the monster speaking with Bela Lugosi's voice. So they deleted all of Bela Lugosi's dialogue, and inadvertently, all the references to him being blind.
Dr. Frankenstein must have kept records. Show me.
So unless you know what happened behind the scenes, it comes across as a really weird performance. There are flashes of the cunning and sinister Igor, but unless some miracle happens and we find this deleted footage, we'll never know the real Bela Lugosi performance. Although I can't help but wonder what might have been. It's still a very fun monster mashup. There's something inherently silly about two monsters meeting each other. The movie began as a joke after all, and it has a great sense of fun. We get not one, but two of our favorite monsters, and they have a great fight scene.
Aside from them, we also get some of our favorite Universal horror character actors, like Maria Upsinskaya, Lionel Atwill, and Dwight Fry as one of the villagers. There's great shots of the old castle and full moons, and there's even a musical number.
It is absolutely a ball to watch.
Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman started a whole new subgenre of Universal horror, the monster rallies, and it laid the groundwork for all future monster team-ups. Bela Lugosi's Monster Walk, with his arms stretched out because he's supposed to be blind, actually became the signature walk of the monster. So when people do a Frankenstein imitation this way, they're actually imitating Bela Lugosi and not Boris Karloff. After Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, Universal stopped hiring Bela Lugosi. We don't know if it was because of his health issues, because they are unhappy with his performance, or who knows. But when he finally did come back in 1948, Universal was under completely new management. This was also the last Universal horror film for Dwight Fry, who died of a heart attack a few months after the film's release.
With this movie, I can't help but wonder what might have been. But I have to judge it on its own merit. So frankly, I give Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman 3 howls at the moon out of 4. Ow! 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 Ow!
And if you guys like what you see, don't forget to smash that like button and smash that subscribe button for my good friend Bobby here.
Friend, go